Imagine this. You wake up one morning, you grab your coffee, you sit down to start your day, and a huge chunk of the internet has just vanished. Seriously, that's exactly what happened on November 18th. Major sites from ChatGPT to X just suddenly went dark. And the culprit? A symbol company that most of us have never even heard of. The story of what went wrong reveals a pretty surprising fragility at the very heart of the modern web. So let's break it all down.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll set the scene for the moment the internet broke. Then, we're going to meet the invisible giant at the center of it all. After that, we'll dissect the anatomy of the outage itself, minute by minute. We'll explore the real danger of having a single point of failure. And finally, we'll look at what all this means for the web's kind of fragile future.
So it really started out like any other morning, right? People are trying to log on to their favorite apps, maybe check the news, get some work done. But instead of the usual loading screens, they were just hit with this wall of mysterious error messages.
And the list of sites that went down, it was staggering. We are talking about massive, massive platforms. OpenAI confirmed its services. Yeah, including ChatGPT, were hit. X, what we all used to call Twitter, was down. Spotify, Uber, even creative tools like Canva were completely out of commission. I mean, think about it. Creators couldn't even edit their thumbnails. It was a genuine, widespread digital blackout.
So this raises a huge question, right? These companies are in totally different businesses. You've got AI, social media, transportation, music. So what's the one thread connecting all of them? What was the single domino that was big enough to knock all these others over?
Well, the answer is a company most people have never, ever heard of, Cloudflare. It is one of the most critical pieces of our modern internet, an invisible giant that, keeps the web running smoothly until it doesn't.
So what does Cloudflare actually do? Okay, think of it like the internet's ultimate traffic cop and security guard, all rolled into one. It basically sits between you and the website you're trying to visit. It's routing your traffic, it's protecting sites from attacks, and it's helping them load way faster. It is a critical middleman for a huge, huge portion of the web.
And when I say a huge portion, I am not kidding. Get this, Cloudflare's network supports about 20% of all websites on the entire internet. Just let that sink in for a second. One single company is the backbone for 1/5 of the web. That just shows you how massive its footprint really is.
So with that kind of scale in mind, let's dig into how this crisis actually unfolded in real time on the morning of November 18th. Because this wasn't some slow burn. It was a sudden, cascading failure.
Now check out this timeline. At 6 a.m. Eastern Time, some kind of unusual traffic spike kicks off a chain reaction. By 6:17, Cloudflare is officially reporting problems. And then, just over 20 minutes later, boom, those dreaded 500 series errors are hitting major platforms all over the world. They tried to roll out a fix around 8 a.m., but the chaos, it was far from over.
So about 2 hours into the crisis, this message pops up on Cloudflare's official status page. Everyone lets out a collective sigh of relief, right? Okay, the engineers found the bug, they deployed a fix, and everything's back to normal.
Except it wasn't. Not even close. For millions of people still trying to access essential services, the internet was just as broken as it was hours before. The problem was far from solved.
And this created this massive disconnect. On one side, you have the official status page saying, hey, a fix was implemented. But on the other, you have the real-world experience of users all over the globe still seeing error messages, still being unable to log in. This just highlights how incredibly complex it is to recover these deeply interconnected systems once they start to fail.
And, this whole outage reveals something fundamental, and frankly, a little scary, about the modern internet: the danger of a single point of failure. It all works like a domino effect.
So a cascading failure like this, it happens in stages. It all starts with one critical service failing at a massive provider like Cloudflare. That one failure then breaks all the other functions that sites rely on, things like security checks and API gateways, and the result? Thousands of websites go down, and entire global industries are impacted almost instantly. This table here really just illustrates that ripple effect perfectly. When Cloudflare's API gateways fail, it takes down the AI industry that relies so heavily on OpenAI. When its traffic routing breaks, social media platforms like X just go offline. And when its security and content delivery networks fail, countless e-commerce and news sites just disappear. The dependency is absolute.
All of this really forces us to zoom out and ask a much bigger question. In our race for a faster, more efficient internet, are we accidentally building a digital house of cards?
The Cloudflare outage really puts the key risks of this centralization into sharp focus. We have an over-reliance on a tiny handful of giant providers. A single error, probably some kind of misconfiguration, can trigger a global event. And these failures cascade so quickly across so many interconnected systems that recovery becomes this slow, painful process.
As one tech analyst, Savvy Nick, put it during the outage, this event really just kind of details the fragility of our internet infrastructure. We think of the internet as this resilient, decentralized network, but incidents like this really show just how dependent and vulnerable it's become.
And that leaves us with one final, and I think crucial question. The initial trigger for all this was an unusual traffic spike, which could have been caused by a simple misconfiguration. So as we lean more and more on AI and automation to manage these incredibly complex systems, are we introducing new, unpredictable risks? Are we inadvertently making our digital world even more fragile? That's something we are all going to have to confront as we continue to build the future of the web.